honestly, for me, it's not so much that, like, I'm so sick of it, I want to get rid of this. It's more that when you're looking at the rest of Chicago businesses, if they're all basically saying, you don't have to wear a mask, it's almost impossible as a business to be the one going, you kind of have to here, when everybody else doesn't seem to think it's a big deal. The city of Chicago doesn't think it's a big deal.
For any occasion, don't keep patting down waiting, comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Now, before we actually get into the meat of this podcast...
There's meat in this podcast. Excellent.
I would like to... Well, I hope vegetarians don't get offended. Ooh. I would like to start with something completely ridiculous and unrelated to comics.
Okay.
Can you see the whiteboard from here?
I can.
Can you read out what's written in the blue handwriting?
It says Space Ghettos.
Can you say just that?
Space Ghettos. That
is how you say Spice Girls in a Scottish accent. Say it again and listen to it.
Space Ghettos? Yeah, I guess I'm not hearing it. I'll have to set my Siri for Scottish.
Space Ghettos. Listen when I say Space Ghettos.
Okay.
Right?
Sort
Space
of.
Ghettos.
Sort of.
It's pretty funny.
It's good.
I thought that was clever enough to put on the board for this comics industry business podcast that's all about ghettos in space.
I'm pretty sure the Spice Girls have shown up in a few different comic books over the years. They're
Maybe.
too famous not to. They might be at the Hellfire Gala. I don't know. I can't tell.
I really can't tell.
I really can't tell.
I don't know who any of the actual humans are in that. I don't know if I'm supposed to know them.
Yeah.
It's too difficult to tell. I mean...
There's no context for a lot of them.
No.
Because the guest list is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. Like, it's not like, oh, they got a bunch of athletes. Okay, well, sure, I can maybe sort of figure this out if I tried really hard. No, it's like some celebrities, some like podcast people, some executives, some, I think maybe politicians. I don't know. It's very weird.
Kevin Feige in it?
Kevin Feige's in it, but Kevin Feige's easy to pick out because
he's got a hat on.
He's the guy wearing a baseball cap at an event. Like,
yep,
it's Kevin Feige. Yep. He wore a hat to the mutant version of the Met Gala. Sure, got it. Figured it out.
Maybe he's got mutant hair. He doesn't want people to know.
I sometimes like when stories are that easily reducible, where it's just like, oh, what's the Hellfire Gala? It's like the Met Gala, but they're all mutants.
Sure.
Like, that's kind of it. I read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah, how was it?
It's good. It's True Grit, but it's a space version with Supergirl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It took me, like, unfortunately, like, it took me 7 or 8 pages to be like, what is this story? I know I've read a version of this story before. What is Tom King doing?
Read or watched?
I watched it. I saw the Coen Brothers movie, but it's a book, and then it was a movie, and then it was a different Coen Brothers movie. But, like, the story itself has been around for a long time, and long enough that Tom King feels like he can do a riff on it with Supergirl.
I wonder if Tom King is listening to this right now, which, as we know, he does. And just
obviously.
went, oh, that's where I got it. It's True Grit.
There's too many specific things that he's doing.
But what if he's never seen and or read True Grit?
Like, it's like
what if it's a completely original concept to him?
It's like a sci-fi fantasy superhero thing that's pulling as much from, like, Supergirl as it is, like, kind of like Robert E. Howard sort of space adventure stuff. Was he John Carter? Was he
Robert E. Howard is John Carter.
Yeah, okay. So it's like that sort of...
I was going to say, no, Gambit was
like
John Carter.
That sort of sci-fi stuff where it's like...
The guy from
kind of fantasy-ish, not really technology-ish, just like alien planets, sort of. But at the same time, like, occasionally some of the characters in the story who are not Supergirl will lapse into, like, kind of like a Western phrasing. And it's like, that's too specific to not be hinting like,
okay,
I'm doing True Grit. You can tell I'm doing True Grit because they suddenly talk like they're cowboys. It's good, though. I liked it.
How's Bill Evely's art?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's so good. Very thin line work. It really sells this kind of, like, otherworldly atmosphere. The problem with it that I think a lot of people are going to have who are maybe hoping for, like, I want to see Tom King write a Supergirl story. He's really not. It's the first issue is the majority is this new character, and everything is from her perspective. It takes Supergirl a while to show up, and the Supergirl who shows up is kind of not really a Supergirl that's ever been in a book before.
Oh, interesting.
It's definitely a different take on the character.
Is this a Black Label book?
No, but it might as well be.
Okay.
Like, I honestly had to double check at one point to be like, is this Black Label? no one swears or anything, but like the tone of it is very not super.
I just meant Black Label in non-continuity
sure
reasons.
I mean, in
related
essence,
eras.
it seems like it's going to be as in continuity as the Tom King Kubert Superman book was, where it's like it's not out of continuity, but it's not tying into anything. It's its own little thing. I liked it okay. Some of it is sort of delving into different material than he's been doing recently with like Strange Adventures and Rorschach that felt like they overlapped a little too much for my tastes.
Oh, I thought you just said delving into different material than he is doing.
Yeah. But at the same time, like there's
Wait,
also...
hold on. I'm sorry. Were you saying that Strange Adventures and Rorschach are overlapping too much?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is slightly different than the stuff that he's
doing.
Which
is you want. You want different from him now.
But there's also enough that's similar between them where it's just like, I kind of wanted you to do a Supergirl story because you're not really doing anything like that. And this is like, there's parts of, like, Rorschach just came out last week, and then I read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, like, 2 or 3 days later. And there's enough kind of, in one of the characters from Rorschach and the main character from Supergirl where I'm like, were you writing these on the same day? Did you know which character you were putting words into? Because they feel so similar. Like, it's a problem I think you get with the most distinctive writers, where if they start taking on too many projects at once, the things that make them distinctive writers start to become homogenized because it's being spread across 3 or 4 different books. Like, Bendis is a guy that, when you read a Bendis book, you never think for a second someone else is writing it.
Yeah,
no one writes a book like Bendis.
You're going to make a Bendis reference right here.
But then you read 3 or 4 different Marvel books at one time when Bendis is spreading himself too thin, and they all read like the exact same goddamn comic book. A team book, a solo book, a crime book, a superhero book. Everyone sounds the same. Everything's paced the same. Everything has the same stakes to it. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, I liked it okay. It's not what I wanted, and hopefully it'll land better for other people. But
often your reviews start out really positive, and by the end it's like you've talked yourself out of liking it.
No, I just wanted...
I'm like, oh, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. You're like, yeah, I liked it. It was good. It's okay. I tolerated it.
I want to be honest about it.
If I have to, but I mean, you could have stopped midway.
No, I want to be honest about it. I mean, if people, like, I hope this makes people curious and want to read it. Like,
I mean, you're still going to read the whole series.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, wow.
I mean, look.
If you're still reading Rorschach.
Yeah, I assume I'll still read it.
And by that I mean if you're still reading Rorschach.
I am still
like
reading
Rorschach. I enjoy Rorschach.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if people like Strange Adventures in Rorschach, I think they should 100% pick up Supergirl. But if you're the sort of fan who's like, I've been waiting for a good Supergirl book, I don't know if you're going to like this a whole lot. You might. It's well written. It's a little, I don't want to say derivative, but again, it feels very similar to his other books in a way that I wanted it to have more of its own identity. But I thought it was solid, and it's even like a Tom King book where I'm like not that into it is still better written than 99% of other DC books.
What do you think about the new Harley book they announced?
I don't know if I saw it. What is it?
The animated Harley.
Oh, I didn't see that.
They're doing a 6-issue miniseries that bridges the gap between seasons 2 and 3.
The HBO Max one, then?
Yes.
Okay.
Got it. So it's going to be an HBO Max comic, basically.
Okay. Who's it by?
I forget.
Okay.
But people, names is
cool.
Names is ish, and it's it's basically the gap filler between what happened after Ivy and Kite Man's wedding to get to the start of season 3, and season 3 will start, I think, right while the book is out, or like the book right before. I don't know.
Okay.
Something like that. I thought it was an interesting idea for them to actually do something that ties into a thing they're doing.
Sure. I mean, that was some of the fun of a few of the Young Justice comics back in the day was like, oh, this is additional content that we never got to show you between these seasons or whatever.
And I know so many more people that read or that watched Harley Quinn than read the book. I think this book has potential to do well.
That'd be great. I would be excited for that.
I would like to see you excited for Harley book. Coming in with little diamonds on your...
Oh, no, I mean, I'd be excited to sell comic books. I don't really care about a Harley
is that what we do?
Book.
Actually, that is definitely what we do.
I didn't watch the TV show.
We definitely sold a whole bunch of comic books on Wednesday because we had our first in-store event of this new era.
Yeah.
And we had Kyle Starks and we had Chris Schweizer, and they are such a comedy duo when presented together.
Yeah, they really are.
Mainly at Chris Schweizer's expense, but he's so He's so good with it that, man, I tell you what, having them at the store and then hanging out with them for a day or so, and they've both been at the store before, as you well know, and we did, obviously Kyle was here for Rick and Morty, and Chris Schweizer was at the store with an event he had. I think it was, remind me, right? It was the Book Expo or something, and it was him and Matt Kint and Jason Horn all came together. Yeah, just such a good time with everybody involved in that different event. That was the event where Matt Kint decided to light things on fire in the store and try to burn the carpeting. But anyway, he wasn't there for that. Just having Starks and Schweizer together is such a... Because, you're getting a book signed that they both worked on, and they've worked on a lot of stuff in the past. A lot of Kyle's books, Chris colored.
Right.
Like Rock Candy Mountain.
Yep, and the upcoming Old Head.
The upcoming Old Head, which we're going to make everybody get because it's a basketball Dracula.
I started reading it. I'm only like 6 or 7 pages into it, but I like it.
Yeah, sure.
Did
you read Six Sidekicks 4?
I haven't yet, unfortunately.
Okay. There's stuff that I can't wait to see in the book because it's a framing sequence for several pages that just doesn't translate into PDF. So that'll be very exciting.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it was a good first dip back in because people who showed up didn't just get a signed book, they got an experience.
They did, it's true.
They got a show.
They did.
And, whether you were in front of Kyle's table getting something signed or Chris's table, they're both interacting with each other simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said, usually at Chris's expense.
Yeah.
So it is, as I was talking to Gina today, who was at the signing as well, the best way to describe Chris Schweizer is he's just a cartoon character, but a real-life person.
Sure.
And then I said, he's like Popeye, and she's like, no, he's like Bluto. I'm like, no, he's the size, and he looks like Bluto, but he's more Popeye.
Sure.
When he got out of the car wearing suspenders and just a white tank top, and he's got a hat, and he's got his pipe.
Yep.
I mean, he's Popeye.
Sure.
With his can of succotash that he squeezed open until the lid popped out.
Yep, and the succotash shot straight out into his mouth.
In his mouth,
it was amazing.
Yeah. And
it arced in the air into his mouth.
Ironically, my dad had just sent me an article about the real-life Popeye, the guy who was inspiration.
Okay.
All this neat stuff I never knew.
Wasn't it Gene Hackman? Is that all right? Popeye Doyle. Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, it's not this guy. It's Chris Schweizer. But their work is amazing, and we're already talking about doing something for the trade if possible. We're doing something for the trade, but we don't know if we're getting them to come out again for the trade.
We already had an idea that we would want to do for when the trade comes out that is so dumb that it's like, well, I feel like we're making this happen. We're willing this into existence in the universe.
Yeah.
Because it's so goofy, which means, of course, A, we'll have a blast doing it. B, no one will show up for it.
Yeah. But also by then, Old Head will be out. And again, written and drawn by Kyle, colored by Chris.
Yep.
So there you go. So that was an experience having people at a signing in the store. And if I recall correctly, those two didn't keep their masks on.
They did not.
They didn't want to be masked, and we're like, well, we're still doing masks. And they're like, okay. And then they took them off right away.
Yeah, it was a situation where they were fully vaccinated, and we're fully vaccinated, and the city of Chicago was like literally 2 days away from rescinding its mask ordinance. So the thought was like, they got a table between them with people, and I don't know, it didn't feel unsafe. It felt like it was going to be fine.
No, it didn't. And they were both vaccinated long before we were.
Yeah.
You know how it works. Comic creators before retailers. Definitely. That's the way it goes.
To be fair, though, Chris Schweizer had the Kentucky vaccination, which was, I assume just like moonshine from a jug. I don't think it was an actual...
Yeah, also, you just drink it. They don't inject it. It's really weird.
Pfizer or anything.
It's really weird. Which is also why he couldn't be around an open flame at all this whole weekend. This is a quick little segue, but today and we'll get back to more of the signing in a minute, but today I made up a sign.
Uh-huh.
I redid the open and close sign.
Okay.
And I took the normal DWJ photo we were using, but put the non-masked version of us on.
Sure.
And then I made up a sign of the masked version of that, where it says, if you are unvaccinated, you have to have a mask in Challengers.
Mm-hmm. So fully vaccinated people can be unmasked?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. Like, I could because we talked about it on the podcast last week, that you and I talked about it a lot during the week personally.
That's true.
So if you're okay, that it's a tricky situation because
really
you figure anybody who's unvaccinated at this point now is only unvaccinated because A, they're ineligible, or B, they don't want it.
Or they're unwilling.
Yeah. And if they don't want it, you think they're going to see a sign and say, oh, I guess I can't come in. They'll just lie about it.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah,
it's a whole lot of honor system here.
Kind of, yeah. And the city of Chicago, I mean, their guidance with the Phase 5 reopening is basically if you are unvaccinated, you need to wear a mask. If you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask. That is kind of the city policy. The only exceptions are like public transportation and things like that.
Hospitals. Yeah. So my normal, like today was the day that the city reopened, and I stopped at Dunkin' for my normal morning tea, and everybody in there was masked. I was masked.
Yeah.
And I was masked all day at the store. We only had one person who came in without a mask, and then they quickly put one on.
Sure. And the rest of the guidance from the city of Chicago is like, businesses are welcome to continue to enforce a mask rule if they want, and also, you kind of can't discriminate if people do want to wear a mask when they come into your business.
Yeah, I mean, why would you discriminate for someone who chose to wear a mask?
I mean, I think they have to put that in there just to kind of push against the possibility of like, well, it makes people feel unsafe if someone's wearing a mask or whatever. Or like, I don't want people wearing masks in my business because who are they? I don't know. Like, any number of stupid things.
I mean, I don't want them wearing a balaclava in the middle of summer, but otherwise...
That's just because I don't want them to die of heat stroke.
Or the villain in yesterday's Supernatural who had a hood and then a full black mask on, like the kind that you would wear under a Halloween costume, and then under that, goggles.
That's real Red Hood during Hush sort of stuff. No, it was Red Hood during Under the Red Hood, where he had the complete like red plastic hood on his face, and then when it came off, he had a mask underneath, and it's like, what are you wearing the little like domino mask for underneath a completely face concealing helmet? Why that?
I did that once back when I was in junior high. George had basically made his own Moon Knight costume, but didn't call it Moon Knight. And I wore it to a Halloween dance at school. But I also put on a domino mask under it.
Okay.
Because I figured, like, nobody knows who I am, so someone's going to try to rip this off.
Sure.
And someone did, and I had a mask underneath it.
Pretty great. I mean, that's what Jason Todd was figuring.
Yep.
I'm fighting Batman. He's not going to know who I am. Sooner or later, this thing's going to come off.
Yeah.
And of course, it was not concealing his identity to just be wearing a domino mask in front of Batman, who was like his surrogate father for years.
Literally, you put a domino mask on right now, I'll be like, oh, hey, now.
Yeah. And if anything, the domino mask is like, oh, you look like Robin. Oh, I'm pretty sure you're Jason Todd.
The funnier part of you wearing the mask is you wouldn't be able to see.
Yeah, I really would.
So I guess as of now, masks are optional unless you are unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Again, my biggest concern is kids.
Sure.
But as I was talking to someone today, they're like, well, apparently the vaccine doesn't react as badly to kids. Like, kids will get sick, but they won't die.
Right. Yeah, it's always...
I don't know.
It seems like it's always been a thing where it's not that children are not at risk, it's that the risk factors for children are much lower than for adults. Like, the older you get, the higher the risk factors, is my understanding of the science on it currently.
And I say this often. We've been wearing masks full-time for well over a year.
Yeah.
I mean, the store's been back open over a year. Obviously, we were doing masks for deliveries and stuff before that.
Right.
But that was just minor. But this is, 8 hours a day mask. And yeah, I'm tired of it too, but at the same time, I don't think the majority of people who are complaining about it wore it nearly to the extent that we did.
No, for sure. And honestly, for me, it's not so much that, like, I'm so sick of it, I want to get rid of this. It's more that, like, when you're looking at the rest of, Chicago businesses, if they're all basically saying, you don't have to wear a mask, it's almost impossible as a business to be the one going, you kind of have to here, when everybody else doesn't seem to think it's a big deal. The city of Chicago doesn't think it's a big deal. The science kind of bears out that it's kind of not that big a deal. To be the one going, but we need to still do it, it's kind of like almost the inversion of the early days of the mask policy when stores were like, no thank you. Like, do you want to be the one, like, causing a scene or having there be issues with compliance?
I do want to point out that while we won't be requiring people to wear masks, Andrew has to keep one on.
Yeah,
full-time.
Like you said before, it's very weird to see Andrew without the mask because his whole Challengers experience from the first time he's come into this past Wednesday has been with him in a mask. So when he takes it down slightly to, like, take a drink or something, it's very weird seeing what's under there.
Yeah, in fact, I think he's going to have to wear more of a mask.
Sure.
Like a full head cowl.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's only fair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who is...
Just an iron mask. Why don't we just put him in one of those?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. We'll do that.
It worked for the Count of Monte Cristo.
So
it did not work for the Count of Monte Cristo.
work for him.
Historically untrue.
Let me put you in a metal mask, and you'll suffocate when your beard grows too long, too big. What a long game that torture is.
It's true.
My goodness. Obviously, I expect COVID rates to go back up at a certain point, and
it'll be I hope
it's
not,
a thing
but...
that I was reading in Paul Cornell's weekly newsletter,
mm-hmm.
which I love getting his newsletter.
Yeah,
it's such a. I literally looked up the town he lives in
mm-hmm.
and the church that his wife is pastor or minister of, reverend at, and it's such a wonderfully quaint, like, cottage town.
It's very weird.
Like that, not that far from London.
It's a very weird thing that you're talking about.
But so in his newsletter today, he was talking about how he got his second vaccination. Obviously, England is behind where we are,
yep.
And a lot of the things that were happening to him physically after the first one, he didn't at all think they were vaccine related. He thought they were stress related.
Okay.
And then as they happened this time, he's like, oh, that's what that was.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't freaking out. But anyway, the moral of the story is he was saying how, sure, we're vaccinated, but this is now a thing that's always going to be in the background of our lives.
Sure.
People will always be catching COVID and dying of COVID.
Yeah.
From now on.
Yeah.
This is just a thing.
I mean, the hope is, like, that was the thing when we were talking about the idea of mask rules and challengers. I think you had said to me that you had wanted to wait for something where it was more like, this is not a problem anymore, and it's like, that's never going to happen. Like, if we're waiting for COVID to be eradicated.
Just FYI, I don't know if you know this or not,
mm-hmm.
Robert Burns loves tacos.
Uninterested in that information.
Okay.
The idea of, like, waiting for COVID to be eradicated before we stop wearing masks is, I mean, you're talking about years, if ever. Like, that's just not reasonable.
Right, sure. Yeah, no, I know. But, I mean, it's obviously, you know, we grew up always having to get flu vaccinations. That's just the way that life has been.
Yeah.
Here's one more. Like, there's a new shingles vaccine that's a few years old now, and it's for, you get it earlier in life. Mm-hmm. You know, they don't wait as long.
Sure. And
it's a double dose. And full disclosure, the second dose of that shingles vaccine hit me way harder than the second dose of the COVID vaccine did.
Wow, okay.
Like, that one knocked me out for a week, and I was miserable. And also didn't realize what it was. I'm like, God, I feel like garbage. What's wrong? Oh, right, the shingles vaccine.
Oh, there are chemicals in my body.
You know, and you're like, oh, when was your last tetanus shot? When was this? When was that? So this is just another one.
Yeah.
Still interested to find out when or how it repeats
like
in the
shots?
future.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, all right. So mask policy is that if you're unvaccinated, you need to wear a mask.
Yeah. And if you are vaccinated, it is optional.
I'm still going to have a mask near me in case there's people come in that I'm like, I don't trust this person.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely keep a mask on me just in case that there's, not for the store necessarily, but just in case there's a situation where it's useful or necessary or whatever. But yeah, I there was somebody who tried to come in without a mask on Monday, I think, Sunday or Monday at the end of the day, and I had to give them a mask because they're like, yeah, I mean, I threw all mine away when I heard that we weren't going to have to wear masks, and in my brain I'm like, one, that's not until Friday. Two, you don't want to keep one mask around just in case. Like, even beyond COVID, like, I feel like in the wintertime, flu season?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I think it's great to wear masks.
Flu season... flu season of the end of 2020 and into 2021 was incredibly mild for all of America because everyone was wearing masks. And when you weren't wearing masks, you were socially distant. So, like, obviously the socially distant stuff probably not going to be as much of a thing at the end of 2021. But, yeah, man, maybe if people wear masks and stuff when flu season's happening, it could be good.
No, we won't.
No, we definitely
won't do it.
It's going to have, like, too much of a emotional payload to it.
All right, here is another game, another round of Can Dal guess what this customer wanted? Two people came in.
Web of Spider-Man number one.
Both on speakerphones.
Okay.
Both
ENIAC number 4.
don't speak English.
Batman Fortnite.
Both talking to a child, a younger person who did speak English, FYI.
Harley Quinn skin.
And they were talking about Spider-Man, the Spider-Man collections, but they were just speaking in Spanish.
Okay.
And looking at me, but talking very loud.
Is Spider-Man still Spider-Man in Spanish?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And
I figured it would be.
Side note, I don't know if I told this story before, but when I was in French in college, we had to do a skit. I teamed up with a guy, we had to do a skit, and our skit was, I was an American visiting Paris, and I went to a newsstand, and I wanted a Batman comic. And Batman in French is L'homme en forme de la chauve-souris, which is man in the form of a bat.
Yeah.
So I was asking for that, and the guy was real confused. And basically he said, oh no, in French we call him Batman.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's Spider-Man.
You did tell the story, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, I've told you that. I don't know if I told the podcast.
I feel like you might have, but it's a good story regardless.
L'homme en forme de la chauve-souris. Anyway, they finally let me talk to the kid. No, I'm sorry, they don't.
Okay.
Kind of. He says, do you have any Spider-Man collection? Do you have a Spider-Man collection? And I said, there are hundreds of Spider-Man collections. Do you want to start at the beginning? What did you want? And he's like, what? I'm like, there's very, very many Spider-Man collections. I don't know which one you would want. So then they go back to talking in Spanish, and the mother finally goes to her phone and holds up a photo on her phone
of the Michael Cho cover for Marvel Masterworks.
Oh no, you've already guessed it.
Batman Fortnite?
Batman Fortnite.
I did it.
Yeah.
It was only ever going to be 3 things. Web of Spider-Man, Batman Fortnite, ENIAC 4. That's it. That's all we ever get asked about. Do you buy comics?
Just this whole Spider-Man conversation, it was Batman Fortnite.
Batman Fortnite.
And then
we've had people look at the Batman Fortnite book and go, oh, Marvel comic. Because everything's just Marvel comics to them. Like, all right, great.
So I take them over, and I'm trying to explain, uno, dos. He goes, tres. I go, no, cuatro.
Cuatro.
No tres. No tres. What? Cuatro. And then he points out, I'm like, how would Samuel Guevara say this? El variant cover.
El varianto.
Yeah.
Los variant. Thanks, Sammy.
So it was Batman Fortnite. Okay, great.
Yeah. At least it was right at the counter. We can go, here.
Yeah.
These.
Yeah, but then they're in over their head because they don't know. There's so many. What is it?
Yep.
And again, the language barrier.
True.
Today was a difficult day because we needed. We didn't need. I didn't know what was happening. Diamond called to remote into the system again for a few hours.
Yeah, that figures.
Now,
I hope it's even more broken than it was before.
You had left me a stack of work to do, which I couldn't do.
Sure.
Because it was all computer related.
Yeah.
There were web orders that needed to be pulled down. By the way, Shopify down for an hour this morning.
That sucks.
Couldn't pull any of that up.
That sucks.
So I'm like, I could just go to Shopify. No, I can't. And then the Diamond said, I'll call back at 4 o'clock to double check something. Calls back at 3, logs in again for another hour and 20 minutes.
Jesus.
And at the end result, and this is just because I'm watching, not because of any database knowledge I have.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, you're copying the database. You have to give this to programmers.
Yep, they're just taking a snapshot of the database again.
Yeah, but the copy of the database takes forever.
It does, because our database is massive. We've been using it for a decade.
And I don't know what... I assume this is all for the things that never got fixed.
I assume so as well. It's
because
the scheduler problems.
Because you had big issues on Tuesday.
We did, yeah. Because the current, we're on build 2.15 and 2.16 came out, so we tried to upgrade to 2.16, and because there were problems with the scheduler that never got fixed, 2.16 didn't install right. And because it didn't install right, it broke 2.15. And breaking 2.15 meant on Tuesday night we could not receive the week's books, which means we couldn't pull comics for people and get the week's books ready and do all the other stuff that we desperately need to do to make any money on Wednesday. So we kind of had to very quickly get a Diamond Tech, Chris, who's great, on the phone Tuesday night to basically roll us back to 2.15 because the way that the 2.16 installation broke, we were midway between 2.15 and 2.16, and that's why nothing would work right all of a sudden. And it wasn't just a matter of we'll just delete it and reinstall it. No, there's the parts of 2.16 that finished changed tables in your database, so we have to figure out what tables got changed, specifically reset those, and then reinstall 2.15. So it was a couple hours of work to get that thing ready to go.
I didn't realize he was just going backwards.
Yeah, and then he was going to then call back on...
Wednesday.
He said, like, can I call you on Wednesday to try and get the update to 2.16 to work? And I said, sure, like, anything after 1 o'clock we can probably fit you in. But he didn't call, so I assume he just didn't have time. John, who called today, the scheduler thing was his problem.
Yeah.
That he closed the ticket on, and so when we kind of reopened the ticket to go, hey, nothing got fixed, it was his responsibility to then come back and start working on that.
I felt really bad because John Petrie from Valiant called right at the start of this. I'm like, hey, man, I do not have any time. Can I please get back to you?
Yeah.
And I forgot until right now.
We had a guy from Mad Cave call on Wednesday at like 3:30.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I'm just calling from Mad Cave. Is this a good time? And I had to go, I mean, for one thing, it's Wednesday. We've got a ton of customers. 2, we're actually at a signing right now. So if we can maybe not do this right now, that would be great.
I'm sorry. A publisher should know better than to call on Wednesday.
Yeah, there's a couple days that I've always told people from the industry, like, hey, if you've got to call a store, never call on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Tuesday's when most stores are receiving their product now, so they have no time to deal with, like, publisher phone calls. And Wednesday is the busiest day of the week customer-wise, so they have no time to deal with publisher calls. I'd asked him to call on Friday, but I guess he probably didn't. Should probably call on Monday now.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be. There were some phone calls that Gina didn't let through, so I don't even know what.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe he just called today and it was, nope, Patrick's not around.
Yeah. It could very well be. I mean, it's not like she's our receptionist and it's her job, but if she got to the phone first.
Yeah, and if you were dealing with a customer or something else, like, she would definitely tell somebody, like, he's not available right now.
Yeah, so it's just eminently frustrating to be like, oh, okay, well, here's all the books that came in yesterday. Today we got in Simon Schuster delivery.
Okay.
And the Power Ranger card game showed up. Like, all that needs to be logged in.
So did you do the Simon & Schuster login?
Yeah.
Did you do it through ComicSuite? That sounds like a no.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, that's how we do those now. That's the thing that I was doing the last 2 Wednesdays.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So does that mean there's an open invoice that didn't get...
Yup.
Oh, great.
If you can just set aside the Simon & Schuster invoice, I will deal with it on Sunday.
If I forget, it's just in the file folder.
Okay. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, like, everything that comes in now from, like, Simon & Schuster and Penguin Random House will have specific ComicSuite purchase order numbers on it. So then that has to get received through ComicSuite. That's how we make sure that things are on orders and we don't reorder stuff.
You did tell me this, but since I've never experienced it or never watched you do it, it just didn't...
I would have stepped you through it.
Plus it all just stacked up and I had to do everything at one time, so it was a hachette order.
A hachette order came in too?
Yeah.
Okay, same answer.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe if I was able to work on them right away, I would not have remembered either way.
Yeah, I definitely would have happily remoted in and shown you what to do.
Okay. Well, you couldn't.
Couldn't.
Joke's on you.
It's going to be a slightly longer Sunday for me now.
So, yeah, you'll have to delete everything that got put in.
I don't know if I can. It might have to be a thing where I receive it and then readjust all the quantities down.
Well, Gina made a nice stack of all the Simon & Schuster damages. But I went through them like, you know what? These are all passable. We'll take it.
Yeah.
They were all damaged, but
yeah,
we'll sell them.
I've definitely done that with Simon & Schuster recently, where it's like, is it worth the trouble of, like, going through the whole hassle of reporting this and getting returns and dealing with their stupid billing system?
Yeah. Right? That's a key factor in my decision. Like, we're going to be out of this for 2 more weeks now.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, sorry about that.
Next time we get one of those orders in, if I'm not around, please message me and I will remote it and show you how to do it.
Just
it's pretty straightforward. Like, once you see how to do it, it's really easy and significantly easier than doing all the normal receivings. It's a lot faster.
Well, what if I take those invoices, and this is just a maybe, not I'm going to do it, and then go through and change, like, I'll lower the quantities by whatever and everything.
It depends on when you do it, because then there's going to be a period where we're going to have it, but it's not going to be available online or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the biggest deal, but...
Well, let me tell you this. It would be tomorrow.
Okay. That's fine.
It's definitely not going to be tonight. I don't have those invoices.
I mean, you can just lower the quantities for those and then just leave the
Or
invoices.
maybe I don't at all. Who knows?
And then if you do, just leave the invoices on the black counter and I will deal with it on Sunday and just receive them quickly. No big deal if you don't.
Curse you, technology.
Yeah.
All these stupid adjustments because you're stupid.
I have an additional problem.
What's that?
So...
Erectile dysfunction. Sorry to hear it, Dal.
No, it's actually okay. I don't need Blue Chew. I'm all right. No complaints. What I have...
So you don't want them to sponsor us? I thought they sponsored every podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would be willing to fake an ED problem if there's money in it. I'd be willing to do that.
Could you fake an EDM problem?
Like being able to not dance as well as Angelico? Yeah, probably.
That's not faking.
Yeah, it's not faking. I'm just legitimately not that flexible.
You cannot dance like Angelico does. Don't even, I mean...
No, it would mostly...
Look, man, you're my friend and everything, but...
Yeah.
How dare you?
No, that's fair. He's taking on somebody on Dynamite tonight. I can't remember who.
Is he? Nice.
Yeah, Christian Cage, I think.
I forgot that there's wrestling tonight.
Yeah, Christian Cage versus Angelico with Matt Hardy in Angelico's corner.
Yeah, I remember feeling like, God, Matt Hardy, leave him alone. Why isn't Jack Evans in his corner?
Because this is all like a proxy Matt Hardy match, because Matt Hardy is the one feuding with Christian Cage right now. Anyway, so the problem I have is that I needed to put the PRH order that we just did on Wednesday into ComicSuite so that we can receive it, so that all the quantities are there, so that we don't reorder books that are already on order. The problem is, in that cart that we had is all of that D&D stuff. None of that D&D stuff is in Diamond's system. Because a lot of D&D stuff doesn't come out until like October.
Yeah.
So Diamond hasn't put it in there, which means that when the graphic novels come in for a bunch of that stuff, they're going to have that purchase order. You can just go into the purchase order and receive them. You're done. The gaming stuff is going to come in. It's going to be on that purchase order. You're going to go to that purchase order, and it's not there. And there's no way to put in our system, hey, these are coming in, because Diamond only works a couple months in advance when it comes to books. They don't work nearly as far in advance as PRH does.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that's probably going to keep happening for books that we order through PRH and then want to keep track of in ComicSuite, because ComicSuite is not designed for how the market works in June of 2021.
So we're still at a point where... Would love to
have a new point-of-sale system.
Let's say, well, perhaps we'll be able to manage comics differently in the future.
I would love that.
See what I did there?
I would love that. That would be such a delight to me, to have a system that is more representative of how the market operates instead of Diamond's assumptions from 10 years ago.
Are we still at a point where we're paying for pre-orders in advance, or we pay when they ship? For example, let's say I just ordered 100 copies of Mayor Good Boy today.
Yep.
Are we getting billed for those today?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, we already ordered 12 that we definitely paid for.
24 that we paid for.
I think
also,
the only one we put in was 12 so far.
I didn't... no, I'm pretty sure we did 2 orders of 12.
Okay. I only remember logging one in for 12.
One in April and then one again in June.
The one that was just in the cart was 12 copies.
Yeah. So that was our second.
Okay.
We already had 12.
Okay. Well, the system does not reflect that.
Oh, whoops. Okay. So, par exemple, all these Marvel omnibuses that are up for pre-order.
Yep.
So we're paying for those now.
I believe we are, yes.
Okay.
I mean, to be clear, I don't know for sure. I know that the Mayor Good Boy stuff, when we put that in our cart, that goes in. The Marvel stuff, I don't know if that's a different cart. I would assume that the billing for any cart that you have is going to be the same across the board.
I wonder if these are questions that Matthew Klein can answer for us, or we have to go through a different person.
I would reach out to Matthew first, and then if he's not the person, I'm sure he will put us in touch with someone from the credit department or whatever.
Okay, to be clear,
are you asking me to do it?
Well, I was going to say, are you asking me to do it?
Oh,
because you said I would, not I will. So I thought you were saying, here's what you should do.
That one, mostly because if it's a billing question, I assume you would want to be the person handling it. Because if it's a thing where they're like, yes, we are charging you right away, or no, we're not, you would probably be the one
to say, hey, let's change the terms.
As the bookkeeper, to want to know that and determine if that's worthwhile to do.
Yeah, so we did a lot of financial restructuring recently. And basically, that pauses me trying to figure out how to vocalize this. I think we would have been okay a few weeks ago to be like, no, we can prepay all the Marvel things months in advance now and be okay.
Sure.
Now that's not the case, because it'll be, like 3 months of Marvel books that we pay far in advance as opposed to the week we get them.
Sure. I mean, I guess the thing to keep in mind for how it's going currently is that we're not even ordering Marvel comic books from PRH yet.
Yeah, for 2 more months.
Like, even the first month is like, I mean, a Howard the Duck omnibus and like maybe 1 or 2 other things. Next month is like a few more graphic novels and hardcovers.
Do we have a procedure in place for me to have to, like, basically when I'm going through the catalog,
Yep.
and I'm literally doing the orders.
Yep.
If I notice anybody asking for those omnibuses, I don't order them from Diamond and go and definitely order them through PRH.
So, here's the thing. Pullbox is going to be its own nightmare because of the way that Marvel is both through Diamond and through PRH currently.
Yeah.
Pullbox is just going to keep putting Marvel special orders into the Diamond catalog until we specifically tell it to stop doing that, which we can't because at this rate there's like 7 things from the new catalog that are going to PRH and like 180 that are going to Diamond.
Yeah.
So we have to wait for those numbers to flip around before we can do otherwise. And that's a couple months from now because of how the deal was structured. And it's kind of, as with a lot of ComicSuite things when they lose suppliers, the solution is terrible. It's just terrible.
Well,
I have in my brain a solution for this, but it is incredibly convoluted, and I super hate doing it. So I would just say, for you...
Yeah. My question wasn't Pullbox related, it was just previews related.
No, but Pullbox is part of the problem, because it's going to be taking orders... most of the people who are ordering things like special ordering hardcovers and stuff like that are doing it through Pullbox.
Yeah.
They're not doing it through emails. Those people all use Pullbox now.
But don't they add that to our initial order or not?
They do, and so it's going to get pulled down when you start working on the initial order, and guess what? It's pulling it into the wrong catalog.
Okay, but my point was, let's say you order Howard the Duck Omnibus,
right.
it populates in previews. I'm
right.
just like, nope, zero that out. Make sure to add it to PRH.
Right. So
it's still in your account, but
no, but here's the problem. It needs to, because of the way ComicSuite is built, it has to be attached to an order. We can't just have me be down for Howard the Duck. If it's not connected to an order, I'm not down for it. It's never going to come up. I'm never going to when we receive it, there's never going to be a way to say, oh, it's for Dal. It's just going to be a book that comes in and we go, who the hell was this for? So that's the problem is it needs, all of the stuff that we're going to order from PRH needs to be in an order, but that order needs to have a purchase order number that reflects how ComicSuite numbers purchase orders. And so you kind of have to, I hate even having to explain this because it is so monstrously convoluted that I would rather have an iron mask put on me and be kept in, a French dungeon or whatever, because it sucks so bad. Was he French? Was it a French dungeon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically what needs to happen is, let's say I am someone who uses Pullbox and I order Howard the Duck Omnibus from the current catalog on Pullbox.
All 2 things so far.
Pullbox is going to send that order down to our catalog once it closes on the 16th, and I think the PRH catalog closes on the 18th.
Yeah, 17th, 18th for both of them.
So we won't even know that I'm down for Howard the Duck Omnibus in the new catalog until Pullbox cuts off consumer orders and allows us to start downloading
which is this upcoming
orders.
Thursday, FYI.
Which is pretty soon. So basically when that happens, we're going to have to go through the Marvel part of the catalog, and we're going to have to find anything that's in the PRH catalog for the month, which is just oversized hardcovers.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to go through, and if something's in there that someone has a special order for, we're going to have to go to the individual person's customer page on ComicSuite, their customer account. We're going to have to find that order. We're going to have to delete it from their orders. Then we're going to have to keep a separate sheet of paper that, for just temporarily, that says, Dale's down for the Howard the Duck Omnibus. And then, in theory, when you're deleting it from the customer account, it should delete it from the corresponding catalog. So you won't have to go back into the catalog and reset the quantity to 0. It'll just take it out. That's one of the flags that you can have when you're deleting something, is delete it and then also reduce the order. Then you're going to have to go into Penguin Random House for the initial order catalog for the month of September, and you're going to have to plug in 1 copy of the Howard the Duck Omnibus. And I got to look at this to see if it works the same way, but that whole order is going to need a purchase order number. I'm going to then have to go into our ComicSuite, create a new purchase order for Penguin Random House, and then it's going to generate a purchase order number, 6021. And then I'm going to have to go back to the Penguin Random House website and type into their purchase order field 6021, because they'll assign us one, but if they assign us one and it doesn't match what's in ComicSuite, it's not going to make any sense.
Doesn't matter at all.
And ComicSuite, to make the receiving work, you can't, it generates the number, not you. You can't tell it, oh, it's this number instead. It's going to break the system. Then at that point, once that's all done and we've submitted the order to Penguin Random House with that purchase order attached to it, then we take the same purchase order that we've built in ComicSuite's reorder function with a purchase order number attached to it. We save it, we commit it. Then we go in, we take the little sheet of paper we have that has all the different subscribers on it that has special orders from that catalog. We go into their customer account. We go to Dal's customer account. We type in, we go to special order. We click reorder. And then we type in Howard the Duck Omnibus for a search field. And it brings up the Howard the Duck Omnibus with that catalog number. And we, from the create new order or pull from reorder, we go to the drop down. And the drop down should then have the Penguin Random House order. We go, yep, that Penguin Random House order. Save, post special orders. Now when that order comes in and we're receiving that order, it'll say, hey, Dal's down for that Howard the Duck Omnibus that came in. That is what we have to do until we're fully switched over to Penguin Random House as our Marvel distributor.
I thought you said it was difficult.
Yep. Luckily, it's just graphic novels.
Can you use the same purchase order for multiple orders since it'll be from the same catalog? Maybe. Okay, so that is question number one. Question number two, which I'm pretty sure I have the answer to, is if we can pull special orders from stock, which was a change that Diamond had made a couple years ago, where we could then, when someone's like, oh, can you put this in my box? They take it off the shelf. We want to take it off of the inventory so people don't... so basically,
what was the first question again?
Whether we can still special order from stock with all the PRH things we get.
Yep. Because they have diamond codes.
Because they have diamond codes.
Because we can do it with DC stuff. Yeah. We can do it with the Marvel stuff.
That's fine.
Yeah. The other thing for what I was saying, with that purchase order, it's not just going to be like the special orders. It's got to be everything that's in that catalog that is under that purchase order that we submit to PRH.
Sure.
Has to be in, or otherwise the receiving's not going to work right. The quantities aren't going to be...
But it all doesn't have to be done at one time. We can just reuse that purchase order for multiple orders, right?
No.
Okay.
Because when you submit it to Penguin Random House, you can't then submit another... To my knowledge, I don't think you can submit another order that has that purchase order number.
Huh, okay.
Maybe. I'll have to look. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah. As the person does the initial orders, I'm going to need a lot of hand-holding.
If you want...
For this...
If you want, I will do the Penguin Random House side of Marvel for this month.
Sure, it's 2 books. Kill yourself. Go ahead.
Right? I mean the whole process. Like, you're just going to go through the catalog, cut out anything, give me a little scrap sheet of paper with, like, the 3 books that I got to order for subscribers, and then I will one night do the entire process.
But now, here's the thing. How do I know? How do I know exactly which ones?
Well, because when you... Theoretically, I assume that you're going to pull down everything and then start doing all the orders.
Yeah.
So just don't do the Marvel graphic novels. Like, don't start ordering them. Just go to the Marvel graphic novel section. If anything's got a quantity in it, it's like, make sure that book is not coming out past October.
Okay. God, it's so much extra work for me.
It really is.
God.
It's going to be even worse than the following month. Because then it's like, cool, it's every graphic novel. And maybe some comic books. Who knows?
Yay. But I mean, that'll be easier than having to look up who does what. Like, no, it's okay. This is fine. That is all ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And speaking of ridiculous, bad idea.
Sure.
The number of people that were not concerned, but outright believe when Bad Idea said, this is the end of Bad Idea, just the internet was, as you can imagine, half of it was, good riddance, we hate them, they're so stupid. And half of them were... oh, that's too bad, I love their stuff. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, they tried.
After 3 months of nonstop buzz and massive orders, yep, they're definitely gone for good. That's definitely how publishing works.
We don't have any insider information. I guarantee you they are just rebranding.
Yeah.
They are 100% maybe changing their name. They said they're going to put out 5 more titles by the end of the year. That's their Wave 2 books, which... already violates their own rules of only 2 books per month, which they already violated with Hank Howard, but that wasn't the thing we had to pay for.
No.
But to be able to put 15 more issues out from August to the end of the year, that is way more than 2 books a month.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We've already had people asking about this stupid sticker that you get if you pre-order all 15 of those books sight unseen, meaning you don't know the creators, you don't know the prices, they give us a total price.
You know the total price.
It's like $200 basically.
I think it was less than that.
I thought it was like $196 something.
Okay.
That's why I said
we'll have to look it up because someone's going to want that sticker and it's going to be like, you need to pay me
amount right now. Here's the thing. they're leaving it up to stores to decide who gets how people pre-order,
Okay.
whether it be via email that day, because they're making it just on Wednesday.
Yep. Because I got nothing else to do on a Wednesday.
No, because they want to drive people into the store, and they expect that everyone will drop what they're doing, go into the store just to pre-order these things.
As always.
The same way we had 30-some-odd people who needed to pay for their Hank Howard online because they weren't coming in that day.
As always, I work for Bad Idea.
Yeah. For a very short period of time now. So, yeah, the number of people that will already be pre-ordering these books, basically those 10 stickers are already gone.
Yeah. I would not, if you are someone who is planning on stopping in on Wednesday to get a sticker, I would not bother.
It's already too late.
Yeah. You'll have to get a sticker some other way, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. Man. They're not going anywhere. It's going to be the same kind of things.
Yeah.
It's just that you might have to go somewhere else.
It's true.
And by you, I don't mean you, Dow. I need you to stay where you are.
Oh, okay. I might have to go shortly.
I mean, who knows? Who knows about it at all? But I also, while that was basically the only real topic written on the whiteboard for this week, I figured we would push it toward the end because I'm sure you didn't even want to talk about it at all.
No, I don't care.
Yeah.
What's the point anymore?
Yeah, but it's just like even Andrew, who always messages things like that to Twitter. I'm like, Andrew, you have my number. Just text me. Don't make me go into Twitter to respond to your question. It's like, no, of course they're not gone. No, of course this isn't real. But I do like the number of people that are like, they're not going anywhere, right? Like, I don't believe this, but maybe. And again, we don't know anything more than
what
we do.
What have you heard? Nothing.
Yeah. All we heard was this is going to happen. We heard it slightly before you did, for once. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. No real full knowledge or what have you. It's interesting. Like, we had a lot of people buy Bad Idea books today. We definitely had somebody send their wife in because they got told you couldn't buy two. And then her wife comes in with a list of things, and they're buying, tankers and
Web of Spider-Man #1.
And Web of Spider-Man #1, yeah.
So funny to me.
Man, Web of Spider-Man. Somebody asked him today, and I swear to God it was the same guy. It's hard to tell with masks, but, tall, balding, bushy-bearded people. Not that many of them,
No, it's very scarce in Chicago.
Yeah, right? So, that is a book that isn't even worth talking about because it was such a dumb thing.
Yep.
Why? I just wanted to take them all off the shelf and throw them in the trash.
Yeah, you were pretty upset pretty quickly on Wednesday.
Yeah, like I said, like you weren't.
I mean, it was...
One of us...
It was frustrating.
Here talking right now did not bang their head on the counter.
I can't remember who that was.
It was me. I did not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you definitely...
You definitely did.
Yeah, it was a slow bang. It was that slow, like...
Because it was...
I'm being deflated.
Somebody who only bought 2 copies of Web of Spider-Man #1, and the whole thing was so stupid. Just would not care if somebody like that stopped coming in for books. And I had to explain to Andrew, I think, or somebody, like, the biggest problem, and will always be the biggest problem with this sort of speculator thing, is, okay, so we got, like, 6 copies of Web of Spider-Man #1 in because it was a comic by creators that did not have a huge following, that were based on a amusement park ride on a complete opposite end of the country. I did not think there was a ton of interest. In fact, prior to the release of the book, there was like one person who wanted to sign up for it. So people who are suddenly coming in and buying like 2 copies apiece, none of them are going to come back for issue 2. They don't care about the content. They're never going to read it. So now, of the like 6 copies I got in, maybe 2 went to actual readers. So the most I can sell for issue 2 now is 2 copies.
If they even want to come back.
Yeah. Like the one person who subscribed to it and the one person who bought it off the shelf who's buying a bunch of other comics, including the other Spider-Man comic. So it's like, I think they're genuinely a fan of this concept, or at least want to experience it.
Sure.
But like the guys who are buying 2 copies at a time, they're never going to come back for issue 2 of this. They don't care.
Nope.
Unless issue 2 is also worth like $40 the day of release. There's no chance of them buying it. So yeah, it's frustrating to know like, oh, maybe if I get second prints in, maybe people are going to care, but the window closed, more or less, and 2/3 of the copies went to people who are never going to read more of them. So now the conversion rate from issue 1 to 2 is at best 1/3. Great, thanks.
At best.
Market working as intended.
Yeah. My Key Collector app yearly subscription just renewed. I'm like, oh yeah, that's still a thing, because I don't look at it that much anymore, but I feel like it's a store investment,
Oh, sure.
I look at it when they send emails saying, hey, we did this thing, or look at these back issues. I'm like, oh yeah, let's check to see what's going on. But yeah, I definitely hate that I have it.
Sure.
But it's a necessary evil.
I guess. I mean, thankfully I don't have to look at it.
But you have to hear about it.
I do. I mean, I usually hear about it when people suddenly start asking for some random book they've never asked about before.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, great, so that's a thing. And then Batman introduces brand new characters and no one cares. You get stuck with
Miracle
copies.
Molly.
A stack of those, no one cares.
Yeah, so when I'm
Next
doing
punchline, everybody.
The Lunar FOCs, I'll hit the shelf and just do a quick visual check.
Sure.
And since Batman 110 is on FOCs tomorrow, I went on like, oh, look at all these 109s we still have.
Yep.
That's going to change.
And if you haven't checked the back, we have a lot of 108s too.
Yeah. I didn't, only 2 books on the FOCs are new this week.
Yeah.
Rorschach and Batman Urban Legends.
Okay.
So it's like, oh my god,
you actually have some sales data.
I have legitimate numbers to look at. It's amazing.
Oh, nice.
And also a whole bunch of number ones and whatnot and nonsense.
Sure.
But I'm not, I don't know, what do you think, 5 for the signal for the shelf?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the pre-order numbers look like, but yeah, maybe. That sounds fine.
I wonder what I need to do for Conjuring number 2. Don't know for Conjuring.
Know, yeah.
And also, they still have yet to announce a second print for Nice House on the Lake.
That's a shame.
Yeah, right?
They already announced it. Well, no, they didn't. I was thinking of a different publisher.
This is the point where, like, normally don't we get the DC email late Friday afternoon?
I guess, yeah. I hadn't really thought about that.
I was going to do another segue of it. And again, speaking of other dumb things, but I'm sure you noticed the rash of Yelp reviews we've gotten recently.
I did, yeah. I investigated it today.
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, someone put the actual subreddit that this is appearing in again, that I was able to go look at it. It has a lot of responses.
Yeah.
Huge,
basically,
blew up again.
I knew I didn't have to do anything because Ken had left it open for me on the screen.
Sure.
He didn't tell me about it, but long story short...
Long-time listeners of the podcast.
Yeah, right? This is a negative review we got, a fictitious negative review we get. Well, it's a real review, but it's a
real
review
story. Based on a fictitious event.
From January of 2020, pre-pandemic, about a guy who I apparently yelled at, the fat tattooed, the sloppy...
According to him.
Fat tattooed guy with a beard like a bird's nest. Yelled at him for wanting to get a list of pirated comics. And we talked about this at length the week that it happened.
Yeah.
But somehow...
Somebody on the Reddit thread actually just pulled together a link to the podcast where we talked about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, because there's a bunch of people who are like either thought that we were making this up, or it was a fake review. Like, one of the owners or employees probably posted that review. Like,
why?
Yeah.
To what end?
I know.
To make us look like heroes?
Look, if you get thousands of people from Reddit commenting on one thing, guess what?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Someone's going to have a conspiracy theory in there. Let me assure anybody from Reddit who happens to be listening to this podcast, legit review. I legitimately responded to it.
Yeah, this guy was legitimately posting stuff of like links to pirate books all over our Facebook page whenever we would talk about a book. He'd be like, you can all read it here for free.
Yeah.
And he doesn't anymore because I blocked him, so he can't.
So this is a sincere thing that happened, and as somebody who was incredibly frustrated and offended by it, let me assure you it was not fake. Was not a fun experience, and definitely never anything I would invite upon myself for any reason.
Yeah. And then the review got taken down by Yelp because it violated their community standards.
Yeah, which is weird. Like, the screenshot I think they have is the one that originally had gone around.
The original one,
the one that we went to Yelp and said, like, we reported because we're like, this is just personal attacks.
Yeah.
Like, this guy he's beyond the lie of the whole thing. He's just taken personal gross shots at us. At an employee specifically. So then he slightly altered it and then reposted it so he could grind more axes. And it was just like, that's when I responded.
Yeah. And it's funny because somebody posted your response.
They did.
But it was to... You talk about his postscript, which wasn't in the original post, that they had screen capped the original post.
Right.
So it was before the postscript happened. Yeah. So it was slightly different there, but... I didn't see the comment about the podcast, but
yeah,
I don't know
somebody posted it.
That it went that far. Sloppy? Come on.
Yeah, right?
Come on.
Yeah. With our dress shirts and ties?
Yeah.
Typical sloppy comic shop person.
Sure. Exactly what you expect.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out I didn't need that extra little drop-in from you. So now I have to go in and edit it myself anyway.
Boo.
oh, Reddit, oh, Yelp. But anyway, the point is these people are all putting in positive reviews, but they're all saying, well, I'm just doing this to counteract that one negative review. Yeah. Those are all going to get bounced.
Yeah, and on top of that,
Yelp doesn't like you to do that.
We didn't ask for this, and I don't love it when people do that.
Yeah, like
if you've not been to the store, what are you giving us a 5-star review for? You haven't been to the store. It's almost as fake as the other thing. I appreciate the sentiment. I like that someone's like, I find it disgusting that somebody would try and undermine a business like this because they were not facilitating theft or something. Like, that's sure, great, thank you. But yet at the same time, it's like...
But we didn't get this many extra positive reviews when this happened in real time.
Yeah, I guess it landed in a different subreddit, and it took on a life of its own.
When I first saw the first review, and someone's like, well, I'm posting this in response to that negative review from James, I'm like, oh no, what now?
Right.
I'm like, wait, I don't remember seeing any other reviews.
When I first saw that, I looked through, I'm like, we didn't get a negative review recently. The most recent one we got was, that one from last year.
It's also so weird to see Yelp reviews because almost all the reviews now are just from... Google, yeah.
That's true.
But hey, if you are someone who likes reviewing things, you can always like, subscribe, and review this podcast. And I listen to a lot of podcasts where they say, just 5 stars, please. Don't rate it if you're not going to give it 5 stars. You can give it whatever you want.
I don't care.
This is a sloppy, overweight, tattooed podcast. And it's over now. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.